So, if you've ever wondered how education could literally be engineered to just prevent failure entirely, well, you are in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're diving straight into something called the 90% mastery floor, and we'll see exactly how new tech is finally letting us build an absolutely impenetrable academic foundation for every single student.
We're going to start with a hidden problem that, honestly, every parent fears. That sudden cliff-like drop in grades that usually hits right around middle school. You know the story. A student who always brought home solid B's or A's just suddenly hits a brick wall. Cue the collective parental panic, right? They start failing tests, they get incredibly frustrated, and they might even start believing they just aren't smart enough. But what if I told you that this sudden drop isn't actually sudden at all? It's really the result of a highly predictable structural flaw in how we've traditionally measured learning.
To really wrap our heads around this, think of learning exactly like stacking geometric building blocks. It's an inherently sequential process. If your bottom block is uneven or maybe missing a chunk, you might still manage to balance a second block on top of it. But as you add a third or a fourth or a fifth block, that instability travels all the way up until the entire structure just topples over.
This perfectly illustrates why you absolutely have to pour a rock-solid concrete base in something like addition before the system should even let you look at multiplication. You just cannot easily learn multiplication without mastering addition and subtraction first. The same exact logic applies to jumping from basic algebra to calculus or from basic vocabulary to writing a complex essay. If that foundational step is weak, the very next step becomes exponentially harder to grasp.
But think about a traditional classroom for a second. In the early grades, a student might only be missing a tiny, let's say 10% of their foundational knowledge. The material's pretty simple, so this small missing block is easily masked by totally decent test scores. If a kid scores an 85 or a 90 on a second grade math test, everyone's happy. The parents are happy, the teacher is happy, and they move right along to the next unit. But that missing 10 to 15%, it just stays unresolved. It's this tiny, lingering crack in their geometric foundation.
And here is the absolutely crucial point. By 5th or 6th grade, those tiny, unresolved knowledge gaps compound into a massive 40 to 50% structural failure. That is exactly what causes that dreaded performance cliff. The student didn't suddenly lose their intelligence. It's just that the sheer weight of all those missing foundational blocks finally caused the structure to collapse. The absolute friction of trying to learn advanced concepts with a fundamentally broken foundation just becomes too much, and it leads to this complete heartbreaking loss of confidence.
Now, here's the crazy part. Educational psychologist Benjamin Bloom actually solved this entire mystery way back in 1984. He ran a comparative study and found what we now call the 2 sigma problem. He proved, definitively, that when students get one-to-one tutoring mixed with a technique called mastery learning, their performance literally skyrockets. To put that massive statistical leap into perspective for you, a totally average middle-of-the-pack student is suddenly elevated to the 98th percentile, meaning they outperformed 98% of the kids in a traditional, standard classroom.
Bloom called this historically proven model mastery learning, and it was basically an architectural marvel for the human mind. But there was a massive catch. It was completely unscalable. Society simply didn't have the money or the sheer number of people to give every single child a highly skilled personal tutor. So for 40 years, the 2 sigma problem just sat there. It was a known cure for educational failure that we simply couldn't afford to mass produce. We were hopelessly stuck with the traditional classroom, essentially managing failure instead of truly engineering growth.
So how did Bloom's tutors actually get those miraculous results? The absolute core mechanic here is the strict mastery floor. This means a student literally cannot advance to the next topic until they hit a 90% proficiency metric. The tutor makes sure that geometric foundation is poured flawlessly. There is no moving on to multiplication if you are sitting at an 80% in addition. No way. You stay right there getting personalized instruction and feedback until you hit that 90% floor. Only then do you get to stack the next block. Fast forward to the modern era, and we finally have a scalable solution, an omnipresent architect. Artificial intelligence and large language models are finally taking this unscalable, mastery-based tutoring and making it accessible to absolutely everyone. AI is stepping in as a low-cost, incredibly patient tutor for every single student, and it's capable of delivering the high-density feedback you need to maintain that strict 90% mastery floor.
But how is a computer doing this? Well, instead of guessing where a student is struggling based on some random Friday quiz, AI tutors use continuous, granular telemetry. Simply put, they are measuring split-second behaviors. They track your response latency,
like exactly how long you hesitate before answering a specific type of question. They analyze your specific error patterns to diagnose the exact microconcept you're misunderstanding. They map your conceptual trajectory in real time. By tracking this hyper-precise behavioral data, the AI guarantees that 90% foundation is perfectly solid before it even thinks about introducing the next level of complexity.
And the data is already proving this works. While Bloom's human tutors hit that incredible 98th percentile, modern generative AI learning environments in secondary schools are already making massive leaps on their own. They are pushing average students into the 87th percentile entirely without human tutors. That is a monumental step forward, giving us scalable, high-quality tutoring at just a fraction of what it used to cost.
This completely solves the ultimate bottleneck of the traditional classroom. Think about it. In a normal class of 30 kids, a teacher naturally has to aim for the greatest common denominator. They have a fixed pacing schedule they absolutely have to stick to, which means they literally can't stop the whole class just to fill in the unique accumulated knowledge gaps of every single kid. AI tutors throw out that uniform assembly line pacing and replace it with high-density, continuous, highly personalized feedback. It steps back, finds exactly where your specific foundation is cracked, and rebuilds it right from there. But, and this is a big but, AI is definitely a double-edged sword. It is fantastic at managing task sequencing, tracking error patterns, and having literally infinite patience. But it completely lacks empathy. An AI doesn't know what it feels like to just have a really bad day. And that is exactly why the ultimate, most effective solution isn't about replacing teachers with machines. It's about pairing the AI with a human motivation coach. This hybrid model uses the tech to do the heavy lifting of personalized pacing, which completely frees up the human educator to do what they do best: build relationships, encourage persistence, and hold students accountable. The numbers totally validate why that human element matters so much. When researchers looked at standardized testing, an AI-only baseline definitely provided good growth, but when they implemented a differentiated hybrid model where lower-performing students got proactive human support right alongside the AI, it resulted in a staggering 61% increase in relative academic growth. The AI provided the 90% mastery floor, and the human provided the inspiration and accountability to keep that student pushing forward. As the founder of Khan Academy pointed out in our source materials, the ultimate goal here is absolutely not to replace human teachers. Instead, the main responsibility of educators now is to figure out how to maximize these benefits to help students learn faster and better. We finally have the tools to permanently engineer growth and eradicate the accumulation of academic failure once and for all. By letting AI handle the diagnosis of those missing building blocks, teachers can finally focus on guiding their students with so much more confidence.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. For generations, we've just kind of accepted that a large chunk of students will inevitably fall behind simply because we couldn't scale the solution to help them. But now we can. If we utilize AI to ensure no student ever falls below that 90% floor, how extraordinarily high could the next generation build? What entirely new heights of human potential are we about to unlock?